Good afternoon. Back after lunch, sumptuous lunch. I'll try to stay awake while I'm making the presentation, okay? Very excited, very thrilled to be here. As Jensen said, day zero of Indonesia embarking on its AI journey. Who are we? You've heard NVIDIA, you've heard Accenture. Who's BDX? BDX is the data center provider. What is a data center? Data center is the place where the AI physically lives. So you've heard about GPUs, you've heard about servers, et cetera, et cetera. Those GPUs, those servers need a physical place to live. And that physical place where the servers and the GPUs live is called a data center. Did we have the first slide? OK. BDX Data Center stands for sovereign, sustainable, and scalable places to host the servers and consequently the data. A quick brief about BDX. We are currently present in 5 countries: Indonesia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, and of course, Indonesia. A total of 1 gigawatt of capacity in various stages of commencement. In Indonesia, our business, BDX Indonesia, is a joint venture between Indosat, Indosat, and ourselves. BDX Indonesia has ownership from Indosat, Indosat, and by virtue of that ownership, what it does is that it guarantees sovereignty. It guarantees that the country's data stays within the country. In the earlier sessions, you heard Jensen and Vikram talk about the importance of having the data inside of your country. I come from India. Both India and Indonesia have borne the brunt of colonization. If we do not control our data in our country, we are going to end up being digitally colonized. And what does colonization mean? A country which has been colonized exports raw material and imports finished goods. So all of the value that gets created from the raw material of data being converted to intelligence is retained by the country which is processing the data to make it intelligent. Therefore, it is absolutely imperative that every country has its own data held within its own geographical boundaries. And like I said earlier, because we are owned by Indosat and Indosat in Indonesia, data sovereignty is guaranteed. A few minutes on our business and our approach in Indonesia. What you see on my right side is the BDX Indonesia infrastructure that we are proud of, that we've created, and we are continuing to augment. Scalable, interconnected, and secure. Let's just take a minute to understand what each of these terms means. Scalable means that our assets, our data centers in the country are scalable to match any amount of requirement that Indonesia has to create intelligence out of the data. What you see in the center of this picture are 3 of our data centers which are ready for AI training. And what you see around those 3 data centers are 50 sites across the country which are ready for inference. And as we heard in the morning, after the data has been processed to become intelligent, it is important for people to be able to access that intelligence as well. And for that intelligence to be accessed, it is very important that the intelligence resides near the consumption. That means wherever people are going to consume the intelligence, physically the intelligence has to be located close to the consumption. Our 50 sites around the country will make sure that intelligence is available on millisecond intervals. What that means is that, so all of us have used video platforms, YouTube, TikTok, etc. When the data is located far away from an individual, say I, consuming that data, then you will see buffering. You see the thing going round and round and round and round. Now that is, when you're watching a video, it's okay, it's a bit of irritation, but you live with it. But as you move to the next level of AI inference, say self-driving cars or remote surgeries being performed, the latency or the time that it takes for the intelligence to reach the end consumer can be the difference between life and death. And therefore, when we say that we have 50 sites across the country to help with inference, we are actually covering 95% of the country's population. 95% of Indonesia's population will be able to access the intelligence from the data at milliseconds, within milliseconds of time units. Secure is extremely important. Around the world, every single country has been seeing a rise in cybercrime, cyber attacks. The problem with the current security protocols, the current internet cybersecurity protocols, is that the basis of those security protocols is mathematics. So what that means is that you have a mathematical program which generates some complex number which is generated at one end and is decoded at the other end. So there's a machine which is used to create what is called the encryption, and then there's a machine which is used to create what is called decryption of that same information. Think of it like this. The strength of the encryption depends on the size of the compute power that is creating that intelligence. And if you have a hacker, for example, with a bigger computing setup, that hacker can break into your security system because end of the day, it is on mathematics, it is dependent on the computing power that the hacker has. You might have heard of something called quantum computers. Quantum computers are going to get real in the next 5 to 7 years. Quantum computers will generate the kind of power that we've never heard of. All of the existing security protocols that are deployed today, with which we feel very safe. I feel very safe when I'm doing a transaction, a banking transaction on the internet. All of these will be collapsed in 100 seconds. The strongest algorithm that exists today can be broken in 100 seconds by a quantum computer. Therefore, the question is, why worry about security today? We will worry about it when quantum computers become real. I wish that could be the case. But what is happening today is something called store now, decode later. Today, hackers are stealing terabytes and petabytes of data. And they are not able to decrypt it, so they are just storing it. They are storing it in the hope that once they have access to quantum computing, they will be able to break into the data that they have stolen and will be able to access, for example, all of your banking details, all of your identity, all of your personal data. To counter this, what BDX Indonesia is doing is that we are staying ahead of the curve, and we are already deploying quantum security in our data centers. What is quantum security? And how is it different from the normal security protocols that all of us know about? The basic difference between quantum security and the security that exists today is, like I said, the conventional security is based on mathematics. Quantum security is based on the principles of physics. Quantum particles, and this will get a little weird, but I'm not an expert, so I'm struggling to make it simple for myself. The quantum security, the nature of the beast, the way quantum security works, because of the quantum physics rules of superposition, the law of no cloning, and entanglement, and these are, I'll explain all of these words outside on the booth. What that basically means is that when data is quantum protected, the key that encrypts the data, the moment someone tries to fiddle with that key, the key itself collapses. The key dies. It does not reach the recipient. And therefore, the recipient knows that the security protocol has been messed with, and they will shut down. So what we are doing, in short, is starting to deploy quantum security today across our data centers, starting with Indonesia, and of course, we are going to other countries as well, to make sure that data is not even stolen today. Forget it being decrypted. The people who are trying to store now and decrypt later, even those efforts will not be fruitful. We are working with governments across all of the countries that we are in, and we are preparing a proposal for the government of Indonesia as well to put forward this quantum security protocol, explain what it does, and then move along with the quantum secured infrastructure that we have. I missed out interconnected. What interconnected means is that, so think of data center, like I said, it's a physical space where data lives. But then data has to come into that physical space, and it has to go out of that physical space. And what that means is that you need a lot of network. And especially when there are AI training workloads or inferencing workloads, you need to have a very, very strong network around your data centers to be able to help the data to exit and enter the data center. By virtue of our partnership with Indosat and the leadership that has been shown by Telkom and Indosat, I'm very proud to share with you that all of our data centers are interconnected and will be quantum secured, so that data traversing on the network and coming in and out of our data centers is totally secured. This picture that you see is the first phase of our 500 megawatt renewable powered data center. We got this first phase up and running for NVIDIA hardware within 75 days. It's a big achievement. We're very proud of it. The fact that we were able to create infrastructure within 75 days to support all of NVIDIA's requirement for the first phase. The thought that I want to leave the room with, as each nation gets to being digitally empowered, as each country gets to being sovereign and in control of its own data, there are a few things that need to be kept in mind. The first factor is power. Storage and processing of data needs a lot of power. Indonesia is lucky to be a power surplus country. But there are countries in the region which are power deficient. And what that means is that if those countries were to try and get sovereign and say they have a 100 million population, the power availability in those countries will not be able to support the data centers required to keep the data in country and create intelligence out of it. So we work with the governments across the region, and we've been working with PLN in Indonesia as well, A, to help secure power, but B, more importantly, to get the power to be renewable. With this kind of power requirement, I mean, we are aspiring for 650 megawatts of capacity. There are going to be others coming in. The kind of power requirement, if we continue with black and brown power across, not only in Indonesia, across the region, across the world, we are going to leave a much worse planet for the unborn generations. So power sufficiency and renewable power are the two critical items that we work with the governments across the region to help facilitate. The next pillar is the ecosystem that is required for a country to embark on being data sovereign. And what it means is that the first and the most important thing is to build the human capital. The second important thing is to work with an ecosystem of partners who understand what it means to convert data to intelligence. Vikram has been on this mission of Gotong Royong. We are very proud to be associated with them. And already with Accenture, with NVIDIA, and with a bevy of partners, some of whom are outside with their booths, we are committed to contributing to the ecosystem in Indonesia. And of course, we continue working around the region as well. The last part is regulations. As data and AI start getting more and more powerful, governments will have the inclination to regulate. And it has to be regulated. The two industries today which are crying out to be regulated are AI and data centers. But here are the three things that have to be kept in mind.
Pak Mayank, please forgive me, the time is up. Maybe 3 minutes from now.
30 seconds.
If we can conclude that.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Baba.
I didn't see the timer. Sorry. Regulations have to be easy. If any of you has visited Singapore recently, you will see that you are not even required to present your passport. The facial recognition system of the immigration department lets you in and out of the country. Regulations have to be as easy as that. The second point is regulations and innovation need to have a certain distance. If regulation is ahead of innovation, innovation does not happen. And you see a lot of countries and regions who win Nobel Prizes but never create businesses out of them. And if regulations are too far behind innovation, then you have something like the 2008 financial crisis, where the regulations just could not keep pace with financial innovation. And the last part is balancing the incentives across regulations. So there's a value chain, and you need to have regulations to ensure that each player in the value chain is incentivized or disincentivized in the ratio of the risk and the reward that that player is taking. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Bapak
Sorry
Mayank.
about the time.